Okay, so I decided to do my research proposal on trauma-based instruction in the regular school day and its effects on academic growth. So, thinking about these kids who have experienced significant trauma, it's very prevalent in our schools today. Almost one third of children attending U.S. public schools will have impaired cortical functioning due to abuse, neglect, domestic violence, poverty, etc. So when this significant trauma or unpredictable stress occurs, the neural networks involved in the stress response stop working properly, which can lead to emotional, behavioral, and learning problems. So when I think about these students that are in my class or who have been in my class who have experienced significant trauma, they're usually very, very bright kids. However, they may have a hard time with reading comprehension or math, whatever it is, and they're usually significantly behind. Most students that are in my class who have experienced trauma have an IEP and are considered special ed. My question is how can students learn if their brain is not working properly, and if they would have gotten the correct amount of intervention or any intervention at all, would they be in the same boat that they are in currently? So after reading and reviewing the literature, I concluded that it is beneficial for schools to have a trauma-based instruction program specifically for younger students. Students who have experienced early intervention for trauma showed to be more academically successful than those who did not receive any trauma-based instruction at all, or who did not receive it as an early intervention. However, even though trauma-based instruction is beneficial, there are certain limitations to these studies and doing trauma-based intervention in schools today. When involved in schools, the majority of the data collection is going to come from teachers and staff, which could cause the studies to be biased. Also, it is very hard to collect data on students who have experienced specific trauma, such as abuse or neglect, as it is a very sore subject and it's just not something that's talked about. Taking all this into consideration, it would be beneficial if future steps were taken to make the data not biased, as well as to find a way to reach a good majority of students who have experienced various types of trauma, and to reach those students who I feel have slipped through the cracks and are coming to the upper elementary teachers and they've not received any interventions for their trauma. So my research question is, does including trauma-based instruction during the regular school day increase academic growth in elementary students who have experienced trauma? The participants for my study will be made up of 20 third grade students. These students will be chosen from the school's database for experienced trauma. And out of those 20 third grade students, those students will be put into two groups. The first group will be the experimental group, and these students will receive trauma-based instruction during the regular school day. The other group will be the control group, and they will be waitlisted to receive this trauma-based instruction. In addition to the students, there will also be a small group leader who will provide the students with trauma-based instruction, the students' general education teachers, and an observer who will make sure that the study is done to fidelity. The setting of the study will be in a small group setting during the normal school day in the guidance classroom or another classroom where the small group can take place. The students will go to the small group time during their WIN time, which is their what I need time. And the intervention will be presented on every Tuesday and Thursday for the entire school year, and each session will be 45 minutes long. The experimental design that I chose was a group experimental design with multiple baselines across the participants. I chose this design because first, the dependent variable as well as the control group is measured repeatedly over the course of the school year. Secondly, there will be a baseline for each student, which allows an initial data point of all the participants' academic level. Also, there is the ability to compare the two groups with this design to make the research of higher internal validity. The baseline. So At the beginning of the research, all the students, all the third grade students will take the third grade BOG, beginning of grade assessment for ELA and math. Their scores will be charted on their graphs. Taking the BOG will show the student's current academic level at the beginning of that school year for both ELA and math. The BOG is given to every third grade student in North Carolina and is used to determine their current academic level at the beginning of their third grade year to show growth by the end of the year. The intervention is the students will be receiving the trauma-based instruction in a small group setting every Tuesday and Thursday during school hours. There will also be a control group, like I said, that will not be receiving the instruction prior to the study. The implementers of the intervention will be trained in how to provide trauma-based instruction. And throughout the school year, data will be collected on these students' NC check-ins to see if their academics are growing more rapidly compared to the students in the control group who are not receiving the trauma-based instruction. The dependent variable would be the North Carolina check-in for both ELA and math. The check-ins will show progress towards academic growth, and each 9 weeks a new check-in is given. So the students at the beginning, the baseline will be the BOG. Then their check-ins each 9 weeks will be plotted to see if their academics are growing, and then at the end they'll take the EOG, and hopefully we would see that the students who are receiving the trauma-based instruction during the school year, their growth is more rapidly growing than the students that were in the control group. So the procedural fidelity, to ensure that the intervention is implemented as intended, the implementer who will be providing the trauma-based instruction will clock in their time that they meet with the students every Tuesday and Thursday. They are going to record the steps that they completed during the intervention, as well as record their sessions via video camera. The steps that they will write down will be much like a lesson plan for the trauma-informed instruction session. Their write-up should match what was shown in the recording that was taken via the video camera. There will also be an observer that will be monitoring the intervention sessions to ensure that it is being done to fidelity. Social validity. To measure social validity, the student's classroom teacher will be given a questionnaire at the end of the study to determine if the intervention was appropriate for the students who participated in small group sessions. The questionnaire will be used to see if the students had academic growth after participating in the trauma-based instruction. Questionnaires will also be sent home to parents and guardians to determine if they thought their students had a growth in academic achievement by the end of the school year. And lastly is the data analysis. So there'll be 4 sets of 10 graphs that will be made. The 4 sets is 2 sets for the control group and 2 sets for the intervention group. That shows their ELA and math scores. The reason for choosing line graphs is because they will show the change over the school year. The initial baseline data point will come from the student's 3rd grade BOG, and that will be on there as well. If there is an increase in the intervention group scores and not so much the control group, it will show that the trauma-based instruction aided in improving academic growth. The data will be connected back to the research question by seeing if the students who received trauma-informed instruction had an improvement in academics compared to the control group. And these are my references, and thank you guys for watching.